Single mom's touching birthday photo proves incredible hidden connection. Billionaire reveals life-altering gift. Sarah sat quietly in the dim light of her kitchen, the weight of the world resting heavily on her shoulders. Just days away from her 40th birthday, she knew that the small-town life she led contained both beauty and struggle. Juggling two jobs, one at the diner, where she greeted customers with a smile, and the other at the grocery store, where her hands were raw from stocking shelves, Sarah never felt like she was quite enough. But through it all, the heart that beat inside her wasn't just for herself, it was for Noah, her talented 16-year-old son. Noah had a gift for music. The way he played his guitar could bring tears to anyone's eyes. But as Sarah faced the reality of overdue bills piling on the kitchen table, the dreams they both held felt increasingly insurmountable. That evening, Noah approached her with a carefully wrapped package, his eyes sparkling brighter than the stars outside. "Happy early birthday, Mom," he said, hope echoing in his voice. Unwrapping the collage of photos, Sarah felt her heart swell. Each picture told a story: Noah's first recital, their camping trips, countless moments of laughter and joy framed in unfiltered love. Tears welled in her eyes as memories rushed back, and she felt that electrifying spark of resilience reignite within her. This was their life, filled with struggle but overflowing with love. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The next day, the local newspaper plastered a headline about a wealthy billionaire, Jack, who was making headlines for his charitable ventures. Sarah's heart sank as an unsettling sense of recognition crept in. Years ago, she'd given him a heartfelt talk at a charity event, urging him to rise above his troubled childhood. Little did she know, a small act of kindness would shape someone destined for greatness. But as Jack's latest charity initiative emerged, it posed a direct threat to the community center, the beating heart of their tight-knit town, a safety net for families like hers. Tension rippled through the streets, sparking a fierce divide among the townsfolk. Some admired Jack's ambition, others questioned his vision. When Sarah decided to stand up for the center, she became the voice of her community, rallying neighbors who were struggling just like her. The undeniable truth of Jack's past, intertwined with the lives of those around her, forced Sarah to reckon with her own biases. Would she defend the heart of the community while wrestling with this new reality? As the town prepared for a critical meeting to decide the fate of the center, Sarah felt all eyes were on her. What would her choices mean for her budding relationship with Jack? Would she be able to bridge the emotional chasm between them, or would the weight of her community's needs pull her further away? With emotions running high, Sarah stood at a crossroads, knowing that the choices she made next could change their lives forever. As the clock ticked down to chaos, she couldn't shake the question lingering in the air: could love, forgiveness, and community love triumph over the struggles swirling around them? The morning of the town meeting dawned with an unsettling quiet. Sarah woke before the sun had fully risen, the sky painted in streaks of orange and purple. She brewed a pot of coffee, the aroma filling the kitchen but doing little to calm her racing heart. Today was more than just a decision about the community center, it was her chance to stand up for everything she loved. As she poured herself a cup, Noah shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "You okay, Mom?" he asked, concern flaring in his voice. She forced a smile, trying to mask the turmoil inside. "Yeah, just a big day ahead." Noah collapsed into a chair, his guitar slung over his shoulder, and picked at a few strings absent-mindedly. The sound of those soft notes calmed her pounding heart, tethering her to the moment. "Do you think you'll be okay speaking in front of everyone?" he asked, his eyes searching hers for reassurance. "I have to be," she replied, though uncertainty hung in the air. It would be the first time she publicly confronted Jack since realizing the impact of his decisions. With every passing minute, the weight of expectation settled on her. The community center represented hope for so many, a place where families gathered, children learned, and friendships blossomed. But it was also a testament to the struggles faced in a small town, one she knew all too well. As they walked to the town hall together, Sarah felt butterflies dance in her stomach. Townsfolk greeted them on the sidewalks with nods and quiet smiles, but the tension was palpable. The air buzzed with whispers of what Jack would propose. Inside the hall, the seats were filled, and she could feel the collective breath of the crowd. Sarah's heart thudded louder when she caught sight of Jack, his presence commanding attention. He stood tall at the front, radiating confidence as he prepared to present his plan. "Good morning, everyone," Jack began, his voice smooth, but Sarah sensed an undercurrent of tension. "I'm here to discuss an exciting new initiative that will revolutionize the way we support our community." He paused, casting a glance toward Sarah. Their eyes locked for a moment, and she felt a surge of emotions. The split thoughts in her mind raced. Could he see her hesitation? Did he understand the stakes? As Jack unveiled his vision for a new entertainment complex, a shiny, state-of-the-art facility, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Yes, progress was necessary, but at what cost? Families would lose their gathering space, their safe haven. When it was her turn to speak, she stood, her heart pounding wildly. The air was electric, and she glanced around the room. "I appreciate your vision, Jack. But we can't forget the people we're leaving behind." Her voice trembled, but she pressed on, fueled by the memories of late-night games, potlucks, and the laughter that filled the community center. Imagine a place where every child feels welcome, where resources for education and support are within their reach. That place is not just a building, it's our community center. She exclaimed, her heart racing as cheers and murmurs echoed from the audience. Jack's expression flickered slightly, an emotion flitting across his face that Sarah couldn't quite discern. As he stepped forward to counter her argument, she realized this moment was more than about the center, it was about their connection, deep, tangled, and yet incredibly fragile. As arguments flew back and forth, love, loyalty, and pain rippled through the crowd. The tension hung in the air, thick and unresolved, teetering on the brink of chaos. In that moment, Sarah felt her heart tugged in multiple directions. Could she continue to fight for her community, even if it meant clashing with someone she once trusted? The stakes were higher than she'd anticipated. Her relationship with Jack, his dreams, and the futures of their families hung in the balance. And just as she opened her mouth to speak again, a new thought hit her hard: what if their collective struggles could somehow unite them? A flicker of hope sparked within her, but would it be enough to break through the barriers they had erected? The moment had arrived to confront the truths they had both avoided. Would they find common ground, or was this just the beginning of a deeper conflict? With the crowd still buzzing, Sarah took a steadying breath, uncertain of what would come next. The air crackled with anticipation as Jack prepared to speak, the tension radiating from the crowd like heat from a summer's day. Sarah's palms grew clammy, her heart thrummed like a drum. She gripped the edge of the podium, steadying herself as Jack took the floor. "Thank you for your perspective, Sarah," he began, his voice steady. "But let us not forget that progress is what drives us forward. This entertainment complex could create jobs, draw visitors, and foster growth for all businesses in this town." His words were like arrows aimed at her, precise and intentional. Sarah felt the murmur of the crowd shift, people shifting their weight as hope started to flicker. But deep down, she knew his arguments came wrapped in shiny paper, tempting, but hollow. "Jack! What about the kids?" she called, her voice rising above the noise. "What good are jobs if our children don't have a place to grow and feel safe? A state-of-the-art facility won't replace the memories we build in our community center. We need to protect what we have and ensure every child has a warm, welcoming space." The crowd erupted in applause again, a wave of solidarity washing over Sarah. Yet, Jack's face remained stoic, determination etched in his brow. He quickly countered, and what if this complex can become that very space? A place that can host events, parties, and gatherings, just on a bigger scale? Sarah felt her resolve waver. Jack had a point, bigger could be better. But at what cost? The community center had soul, it meant something to them all. She didn't want to fight him. But then she sensed a shift in the air, a murmur of discontent starting to ripple through the audience. They could feel the division, the growing tension between visions that once intertwined so easily. Noah, perched in the front row, met her eyes. His expression was a flicker of admiration and unease, the weight of the moment pressing on his young shoulders. She could see the worry etched across his face, but also an appreciation for her courage. This was more than about Jack and the town, it was about family, resilience, and hope. She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts, thankful for the grounding presence of her son. "Look, I understand change is hard, and everyone here wants what's best for the town," she began, her voice steady now. "But it's not just about new buildings. It's about our past, about legacy. Let us find a way to honor both." Jack's gaze bore into her, searching for something, perhaps agreement or an acknowledgement of a shared pain. For a fleeting moment, Sarah saw it in his eyes, a glimpse of the boy she once knew, the friend who shared dreams and laughter. But just as she felt the stirrings of hope, an elderly voice from the back interrupted, shaking Sarah to her core. "You keep talking about your complex, but what about us? The seniors who rely on the community center for everything? It's our lifeline." Gasps echoed from every corner of the room. Sarah's heart sank. The battle lines were now drawn, but it wasn't just Sarah and Jack anymore. Families, seniors, children, all fragile pieces in a puzzle being forced together by necessity and ambition. Jack's facade cracked, just for a moment. "We can work together for both," he said quietly, though it felt almost like an afterthought. It was as if he realized, right then, that his vision was incomplete. Could they truly unite the town's dreams with differing visions? Sarah's heart raced at the thought. "How?" she challenged, her voice trembling but fierce. "How do we move forward without losing what we hold dear?" The silence that followed was thick, charged with unanswered questions and unspoken fears. Then into that silence, a child's voice broke through, "We just want to play." In that moment, the crowd shifted again, turned back to the heart of the problem. The adults looked at each other, realizing how easily the fight could turn into something greater, something dissolved in the hands of the very people they were meant to protect. With everything hanging in the balance, Sarah's face tightened, a glimmer of determination sparking within her. They had to find a way. There had to be hope beyond the conflict. But as she looked to Jack, she wondered if he could see it too. Would he be willing to listen? The meeting was spiraling in a direction neither had anticipated, and change felt closer than it had moments ago. However, would their willingness to collaborate win over their darkened past? That was the question looming over them all now, and as the crowd began to murmur softly, Sarah could feel a pivotal moment approaching, one that could alter the fate of them all. Would they seize it, or would division tear them apart? The murmurs in the room grew louder, a mix of hope and uncertainty. Sarah could feel the weight of every gaze on her, wondering if she had the answer they needed. Jack shifted slightly, his expression a war of conflict, but something flickered in his eyes, curiosity, perhaps. "Maybe it's not about choosing one over the other," she pressed on, urgency lacing her voice. "What if we bring both visions together? An entertainment complex that also respects and enhances our beloved community center?" She saw Jack's brow furrow. It was a glimmer of interest. The crowd fell silent again, the air thick with possibilities. Could they truly combine their dreams? "Think about it," Sarah continued, her pulse racing as the words spilled out. "What if the new complex had spaces for children to play, areas for seniors to gather, and community events to take place. A place that celebrates our history, our roots, while also moving us forward? Moments ticked by, and she searched the crowd's faces for reactions. Some looked intrigued, others hesitant, but they were listening. Jack leaned in. "You really believe that can work?" His voice held a softness, a hint of vulnerability that was rare for him in public. It was as if he was wrestling with the mantle of ambition he wore so tightly. "Why not?" The resolve in Sarah's voice steadied her. "We can create something beautiful together, a legacy that blends the past with the future." It was a dream too vivid to ignore. She could see children laughing in a new park area, seniors sharing stories on a sunny terrace. Families knitting tighter bonds as they come together for events. The silence lingered, and Sarah held her breath. An older gentleman, leaning heavily on his cane, finally spoke up again. "I'd support that," he said slowly, his voice cracking. "If we can keep our center alive among those new ideas, I'd consider it." A ripple of agreement moved through the crowd, murmurs of yes floating in the air. Hope rose, igniting a spark in Sarah's heart. But as she glanced at Jack, the flicker of conflict still shadowed his face. Could they truly find a harmonious solution? "I think it can be done," Jack said, his voice stronger now, fueled by the collective energy around them. "But it needs everyone's support. We need a plan that involves input from everyone, business owners, educators, parents, and seniors alike. Then let us create a committee to gather ideas." Someone called from the back. "Let us all be part of this change." The crowd erupted into conversations, voices overlapping as excitement sparked. For the first time tonight, there was a sense of unity growing. People were standing together, bridging the gap that had seemed insurmountable just minutes ago. Noah's face lit up as he exchanged a glance with her, a smile breaking through the tension. His pride at seeing her stand tall made Sarah's chest swell with emotion. This wasn't just a chance for the town, it was a pivotal moment for their family too. But before they could celebrate this newfound hope, Sarah noticed a group of seniors holding back, their expressions clouded with doubt. They knew the stakes weren't just about a building, it was about their home, their lives. Sarah turned back to the crowd, the urgency palpable. "Let us not forget that while we're aiming for a new vision, we can't compromise what makes this community special," she said, raising her voice just above the noise. "We must honor every story, every memory that unites us." As Sarah spoke, she felt the atmosphere shift again. Satisfaction buzzed in the air, but shadows still loomed over the hearts of some. The path ahead remained murky, but somehow brighter than before. Would they navigate these waters together? Then, just as the conversation escalated, someone called out in the crowd with a spark of mischief, "Hey, are we going to have a big community party to celebrate? Or what's the point?" Laughter erupted, igniting a sense of camaraderie even deeper than before. As the cheers filled the meeting hall, Sarah realized they had only just begun. The real work would be in the details, the real test was yet to come. Could they all truly embrace this vision? Little did they know, the cracks in Jack's armor were widening, revealing a glimpse of a leader who might embrace change more than anyone anticipated. With the night still young and hopes running high, Sarah wondered how far they could go, united in this new dream. What kind of foundation could they build together? The question lingered in the air, and as the room buzzed with laughter and ideas, one thing was clear: this was just the beginning, and Sarah could feel the pulse of possibilities waiting to unfold before them all. The room was still alive with chatter, excited voices melding into a tapestry of hope. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her, buoyed by the laughter and camaraderie that had blossomed just moments ago. But as she scanned the crowd, her gaze landed on the group of seniors again. They stood together, arms crossed and faces etched with uncertainty. "Change can be scary for some," Noah said softly, nudging her gently. "It stirs up old fears." Sarah sighed. "I know. They've seen so much evolution over the years. What if they don't believe it'll be for the better? Noah's expression turned thoughtful. Maybe we need to help them see it differently. Invite them into the conversation personally. Let them share what they cherish, what they can't lose. Great idea, Sarah replied. A surge of determination filled her. She turned back to the crowd, raising her arms to draw their attention. Everyone. I think we need to show that our plans for the future start with honoring the past, Sarah said, her voice cutting through the noise. I want to invite our senior community to meet with us, to share their stories and wisdom. Their input is invaluable. A murmur of agreement swept through the gathered people. The older gentleman with the cane smiled, his eyes brightening. You give us a voice, and that makes all the difference, he acknowledged. Jack stepped forward, visibly moved. I'll help organize that meeting, he said, his voice steady and firm now. I want to ensure that every opinion is valued. Together, we'll craft something that respects all of our histories. His commitment struck a chord. Sarah felt the rhythm of hope beat stronger in her chest. This was a pivotal moment, a sign that maybe, just maybe, Jack was ready to be the leader the community needed. As the discussion turned to planning the details of the upcoming meeting, Noah leaned in close. You're managing to turn a potential conflict into a chance for growth. I just hope we can get everyone on board, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a flicker of doubt within her, the old fears clawing at her heart. How could she ensure that their shared dream wouldn't crumble under pressure? Outside, the sun was setting, casting a warm glow through the meeting hall. Golden light danced on the walls, creating a cozy atmosphere that felt inviting, yet charged with possibility. Suddenly, the buzz transitioned into an electric tension as someone from the back yelled, "What about a festival? We could celebrate the unity we're building. Food, music, and local crafts." "Yes," came a chorus of approval. The room lit up with ideas for a community festival, the kind of event that could showcase their rich history while inviting new adventures. Sarah felt her heart leap. This was what she had envisioned, a space where every voice blended into something beautiful. As planning began, laughter echoed around her. Conversations flowed with renewed energy, new friendships forming within the shared purpose. But to Sarah's surprise, she noticed Jack appearing distant again, his attention seemingly elsewhere, even though he was physically present. "Jack, are you okay?" Sarah asked, breaking a moment's silence during the discussions. "You're quieter than before." He turned to her, a shadow crossing his features. "I'm just thinking about how much this means for everyone and how much is at stake. I want this to succeed, but there are so many voices to consider." "Let's make sure everyone is included," Sarah reassured him. "I want to hear your thoughts too. Your leadership could bring us all together." He met her gaze, and for the first time, she saw a hint of vulnerability, the shield around him beginning to crack. As the plan for the festival solidified, Sarah's mind raced with visions of families bonding over food and laughter. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that something important was still being overlooked. Later that evening, as they started wrapping up, Noah pulled Sarah aside in a quiet corner. "There's a deep connection forming here, and it's powerful," he said. The weight of his words struck a chord. "But what if our differences unravel everything?" she asked slowly, her heart in her throat. "Maybe they're not as different as we think," he countered. "What if something amazing comes from those clashes?" Sarah nodded, contemplating his words. They were both excited, yet apprehensive about what lay ahead. Would they truly uncover the ties that bound their community together? Just as they stepped back into the main hall, the laughter and chatter of neighbors burst forth around them, brighter than ever. The faces brimming with anticipation stirred a yearning deep in Sarah's heart. As excitement surged once more, Sarah caught Jack's eye across the room. There was something unspoken in his gaze, a spark of something that could lead them in ways she hadn't dared to imagine. What could this newfound connection lead to? With the festival approaching and the seniors finally feeling they had a place at the table, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there were still secrets to uncover, emotions to navigate, and perhaps even revelations waiting to be shared. What might emerge when they truly dove into their diverse stories together? Would they all embrace the challenge and find strength in their differences? Or would old fears threaten to split them apart just as they were beginning to unite? The next day felt electric with anticipation. As the sun rose, casting soft rays through her window, Sarah rubbed the sleep from her eyes, a smile creeping onto her face. Today wasn't just about planning, it was about transforming the air of hope into a tangible reality. After breakfast, she flipped open her notebook, filled with notes from last night's discussion. The outline of the festival came alive in her mind. There would be tents filled with homemade goods, local musicians serenading the crowds, and tables piled high with family recipes passed down through generations. It could be the spark that ignited a deeper connection among the community. As she made her way to the community center, she was filled with nervous energy. Would everyone rally around this idea? She could almost hear the laughter in her mind, smell the food cooking, and see the faces of her neighbors glowing with delight. Upon entering the building, she spotted Jack sitting at a table, sketching out plans on a sheet of paper. He looked up, offering her a tentative smile, which filled her with a mix of warmth and concern. Something about his demeanor felt heavy, as if the weight of expectations rested squarely on his shoulders. "Hey there, ready for another day of brainstorming?" she asked, trying to coax his spirits up. "Yeah, I don't know how to make this festival truly reflect everyone," he replied, frustration evident in his voice. "What if we miss something important? What if it doesn't succeed?" "I understand," Sarah said, her tone steady. "But this is our chance to join hands and lift each other. We're not alone in this, let us reach out to everyone. Invite ideas from every corner of our community. Their stories matter as much as ours." Jack thought for a moment, nodding slowly. "Right. We need to build this together." They spent the morning sketching out ideas, building on each other's thoughts. Meanwhile, Noah roamed from table to table, chatting with attendees, drawing them into the excitement. The buzz was infectious, laughter echoing through the hall. The once distant seniors were starting to engage, their faces relaxing, curiosity overcoming their caution. Just as Sarah felt the momentum growing, the door swung open and the older gentleman with the cane strolled in. His presence felt like a wave of history, rich with untold tales. "I heard there's talk of a festival," he said, a hint of a smile on his lips. "I might have a few stories worth sharing." Sarah felt a thrill rush through her. "Yes. Please, we want to hear them." He sat down, and as the group gathered around, he began to speak. His gentle voice filled the room, weaving stories of past gatherings, love, loss, and laughter. It was a tapestry of shared experiences that connected them all, no matter their age. As Sarah listened, she noticed Jack watching, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. The weight seemed to lift slightly, as if the story was opening doors he thought were closed. In the middle of the storytelling, someone else chimed in, sharing their experience, and soon stories flowed freely. With each tale told, the tension that had lingered seemed to dissolve. The stories bonded them, illustrating how their struggles and joys intertwined like threads in a familiar fabric. Yet, just as the conversations were intensifying, a toddler's cry pierced the air, startling everyone. Sarah turned to find a young mother struggling with her child while trying to juggle a container of cookies. "Here, let me help." Sarah rushed over, feeling a rush of instinct. As she assisted, she noticed the woman's flushed cheeks. "I appreciate the effort," the younger woman said softly, her voice breaking slightly. "But with everything, sometimes I feel like I'm losing myself." A pang of empathy tugged at Sarah's heart. "You're not alone," she assured her, "we're all trying to find our way in this together." They exchanged a knowing glance, realizing the festival wasn't just an event, it was a lifeline, a space for voices like hers to be heard and celebrated. As the discussion resumed, Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. If they kept this spirit of openness alive, perhaps they could truly create something special. But in the back of her mind, a question loomed. What stories were still hidden, waiting for the right moment to emerge? Would someone's truth bring them closer or push them apart, revealing the deep divides that remained unspoken? As Sarah sat down, glancing at Jack and the community surrounding her, the atmosphere was ripe with possibility. How many more layers of the community could they peel back before the festival began? Each discovery felt like another leap into the unknown. And as excitement built in the air, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were teetering on the brink of something monumental. What revelations lay in wait? Would the connections deepen as they explored the heart of their community, or would fear and doubt begin to creep in once again? As the day wore on, the energy in the community center only seemed to swell. Sarah felt like she was riding a wave of hope, each story shared fueling a growing fire in her heart. Laughter mixed with the hum of ideas, and she could see it, a vision of the festival becoming a beautiful tapestry woven from every voice in their town. Noah called for everyone's attention, standing tall in front of the crowd. Okay, folks. We've heard some incredible stories, and I think it's time we brainstorm some activities that capture the spirit of our community. What do you all think? A chorus of agreement swept through the room. Sarah's heart sang with the excitement of it all. She glanced over at Jack, who was scribbling down notes with renewed vigor. The glimmer of hope was returning to his eyes. Let us include something for everyone, Sarah suggested as she stood up, her voice ringing clear. A talent show highlighting our local musicians, a recipe swap where we all share our favorite dishes, and perhaps even craft workshops for kids. This festival is about celebrating what makes us unique as well as what brings us together. Yes. Someone from the back shouted. A storytelling corner. We can invite everyone, those older folks with wisdom to share and the young with dreams to chase. Inspired by her own thoughts, Sarah could hardly contain her excitement. The warmth she felt earlier wrapped around her like a favorite blanket. Moments of connection were happening right there, with every idea melding into something magical. However, just as the group began tossing around ideas for food and activities, a shadow crept over her joy. Sarah caught the worried expression on the face of the young mother she had helped earlier. The woman's brow furrowed as she listened to the growing noise of excitement. Sarah wondered, was she feeling overwhelmed again? Taking a breath, Sarah walked over to her side. How are you holding up? She asked gently. I'm okay, the woman replied, though her voice trembled slightly. It's just I don't know if I can handle this. Finding time to participate while juggling everything, you know? Sometimes I feel like I'm holding my breath just to keep afloat. It was as if Sarah could feel the woman's struggles weighing down on her. You're not alone in this, she repeated, the words stitching them together. We can create spaces where moms like you can not just belong but thrive. Let us work together to balance everything. You have so much to bring to the table. Tears brimmed in the young mother's eyes, and she smiled faintly. Really? You think so? I believe it with all my heart, Sarah said, feeling her own voice swell with conviction. It's in our stories, the shared burdens that make us stronger. Behind them, Jack was nodding vigorously. And we can have dedicated time for family activities. Everybody can join in, no pressure. We want families to create memories together without feeling overwhelmed. The woman's smile widened as the ideas began to flow freely. Suddenly, the conversation was alive again, like a spark igniting a fire. More people joined in, sharing experiences, crafting suggestions, and pointing out the empowerment that would come with involving families fully. But amid the excitement, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the depth of connection they sought still had shadows lurking just beneath the surface. What other fears did they carry? What stories were still locked away in unspoken words? As laughter erupted and ideas blossomed, Sarah caught a whisper from the back of the room, an elderly woman, who had listened but said nothing. Her fingers played nervously with the edge of her shawl, as if caught in the tide between wanting to join the festival's joyous chaos and holding on to a past unshared. Would that be the spark that could break the tension? Could the festival truly bridge gaps they didn't know existed? As the air buzzed with possibilities, Sarah felt a shift. They might be on the verge of something vast and profound, but who would be brave enough to guide them into deeper waters? Sarah's eyes drifted back to the elderly woman in the corner. The woman sat quietly, yet her presence was magnetic, as though she held a universe of stories within her. Sarah could feel the desperation of moments left unspoken weighing heavily in the air. "Excuse me, everyone," she said, her heart pounding as she stepped away from the group. "I think we should hear from someone who hasn't had the chance to share yet." The buzz of laughter and excitement began to dim as people turned their attention to Sarah. Slowly, she gestured toward the woman. "Ma'am, would you like to join us? We'd love to hear your thoughts." The elderly woman looked startled, her hands pausing on the shawl. There was a brief flicker of fear, a moment where she seemed to retreat deeper into herself. But then she slowly nodded, a smile emerging like a flower in bloom. "Okay, if you insist," she said softly, her voice shaky but warm. As she rose and shuffled to the front, Sarah sensed a collective breath held in the room. The woman cleared her throat, her gaze sweeping across the multitude of faces eager to hear her story. "My name is Eleanor," she said, her voice gathering strength. "I've lived in this town my entire life. I remember when the community center was built. It was a place of gathering, where laughter filled the air, and strangers became neighbors." A wave of nostalgia swept through the room. The memories Eleanor shared began to knit the crowd closer together. She spoke of summer picnics, community potlucks, and the way families would join hands in unison. Each memory she recounted was a thread weaving their shared narrative into the foundation of what their festival could be. But then, her tone shifted. "But the years have changed us," Eleanor said, a hint of sorrow lacing her words. "People moved away. Stories were forgotten. We don't gather as we used to. I guess I fear that we've lost that sense of belonging." A hush fell over the crowd. The weight of her honesty settled in the hearts of everyone present, including Sarah, who felt the sting of recognition. They had been searching for connection, and here it was, dressed in vulnerability. When Eleanor glanced toward Sarah, her eyes shone with a mixture of sadness and strength. "That's why I hesitated to speak," she confessed. "I didn't know if my voice still mattered in a world that has changed so much." Jack stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on Eleanor's shoulder. "Every voice matters, especially yours. Your stories are the roots of this community. Let us make sure they're not lost." Revitalized, Sarah chimed in, "We should have a dedicated space at the festival for sharing stories like yours. A time to honor our past while looking to the future. Let us remind everyone that belonging starts with understanding where we come from." Eleanor's face brightened. "I would love that. I have so many stories that could still connect us if anyone would want to listen." The room erupted in applause, a sea of encouragement swirling around Eleanor like a warm embrace. Other townsfolk began to nod and share their thoughts, feeling emboldened by Eleanor's bravery. What started as hesitation transformed into a powerful wave of connection. As the ideas continued to flow, Sarah's heart raced with hope for what this festival could unleash. She felt alive with possibility, yet a whisper in the back of her mind urged her to dig deeper. What secrets lay buried within their community that were waiting for the sunlight of understanding? She watched Eleanor, now animated, sharing her anecdotes about the past. The emotions of the older generations were spilling out, mingling with the youthful excitement around them. But just as Sarah began to believe they could conquer the past and shape a beautiful future, she noticed a shadow flicker across Jack's face. What weighed on him, and could this celebration truly mend the unseen fractures within their community? As voices rose and laughter filled the room, Sarah wondered if they were ready for all that lay ahead, truths that could change everything. Eleanor's address had cast a powerful spell over the room, igniting sparks of hope. People weren't just listening, they were leaning in, eyes wide with interest and hearts open. As the applause faded, Sarah pulled Jack aside. "What's bothering you?" she asked, a knot tightening in her stomach. She could sense the tension radiating off him, the way his lips touched the corners of his smile but didn't fully engage. Jack sighed, looking past her, absorbed in the bustling crowd. "It's just hearing Eleanor's stories, I can't help but think of my own family. The good memories, they're fading like old photographs. I worry we're losing touch." Sarah felt a pang in her chest. "That's exactly why we need this festival, Jack. We can rekindle those connections." But instead of amusement, his brow furrowed deeper. "Or we could end up exposing all the fractures. What if our past doesn't connect us but pulls us apart instead?" As they returned to the gathering, Sarah couldn't shake Jack's words. Sensing the raw emotions in the room gave her a spark of determination. The festival could be a turning point, an invitation to share not just joyful moments but the struggles too. The light couldn't shine without touching the darkness. "So, what do you think, folks?" Sarah addressed the crowd that had gradually settled down, the anticipation almost tangible. "What if we not only tell our stories but also open up about the challenges we've faced? Vulnerability can be powerful. It could bring us closer than ever." A murmur of agreement swept through the audience. Eleanor nodded vigorously, her eyes brightening. "Yes. We've all faced challenges. I think sharing those scars will show the young folks they're not alone. That's what builds community." The room buzzed as people threw out ideas about creating a space for both heartwarming stories and painful truths. They discussed a storytelling corner, where anyone could come and spill their heart, an honest, raw space. Laughter and tears mingled in the air. They envisioned a cafe setup, with comfy chairs and warm tea inviting even the shyest to join. But they also sensed a weight in the air, an unspoken fear that loomed larger as they planned. "Do we really want to expose our pain?" questioned one voice from the back. Sarah recognized the town's school teacher, a woman known for her no-nonsense approach. "What if sharing our burdens becomes too heavy?" The question hung like a storm cloud. A collective silence fell. Everyone exchanged glances, uncertainty creeping in. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling Jack's gaze on her. Every community has wounds, but healing can only begin with acknowledgement. "We have to trust one another." The room began to nod, some murmured reassurances, but she could tell hesitation lingered beneath the surface. As thoughts turned heavy again, Jack leaned in closer. "You can't help them alone, Sarah. We need to tackle our own skeletons first." Suddenly, the electricity in the room faltered. It was true, everyone had something to lose. What wasn't being said loomed large in the background. Then Eleanor spoke, breaking the silence with a conviction that resonated deeply. "I have secrets," she admitted softly, her eyes glistening. "Things I've never shared with anyone, not even my children. But maybe that's why we need this festival. For me, for all of us." Before anyone could digest her words, Jack's expression sharpened. "What do you mean, Eleanor?" Eyes widened. The air thickened with urgency. Eleanor hesitated, but the moment seemed to swallow her fear whole. "There are things about this town's history, things that matter to our present and future. It's time they come to light." Sarah's pulse raced. She sensed the weight of change on the horizon. Would these revelations bind them together or tear them apart? As the conversation buzzed back to life, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental. What hidden truths were buried deep in their community's past, just waiting to emerge? Eleanor's honesty had cracked the door open to the past, and the air of possibility hung like a fine mist around them. People leaned closer, breaths held in anticipation of what might spill forth, a truth that could shift everything. Sarah felt her heart racing, each beat echoing with the urgency of connection. "Eleanor, please share." Jack's voice had softened, inviting, as he stepped closer to her. The crowd pulsed with energy, shadows of fear mixing with sparks of curiosity. Eleanor took a moment to gather herself, the corners of her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "There's a history, a deep-rooted history of hardship in this town. It's not always pretty, but it's ours." The community center was built not just for joy but as a refuge during hard times. So many families turned to each other when life felt overwhelming. The murmurs around the room ebbed into silence, hanging on every word. There were whispers of dreams deferred as folks struggled through economic downturns, lost jobs, and the trauma of leaving behind everything for hope's promise. We confronted hardships alone, and the weight often drove a wedge between families. Her voice trembled, yet resolved. But something magical happened when they gathered. They found strength together. As Eleanor spoke, a delicate weaving of sadness and resilience filled the space, knitting their pasts into a shared fabric of hope. The crowd remained still, entranced, realizing they weren't just hearing a history lesson, they were feeling the pulse of their town's heart. "Sharing our burdens could create change," Eleanor continued, her voice gaining strength. "We can't bury our pain any longer. We must expose it to the light. The truth has a way of healing when offered courageously." Some began to nod, a flicker of understanding igniting. Jack's face held a mix of awe and concern, and a thread of connection seemed to crawl between him and Sarah. "What if we create a space dedicated to those stories?" Sarah suggested, her heart racing with hope. "A storytelling booth at the festival. A place to listen without judgment and share without fear." "Yes," echoed voices throughout the crowd. "Let us make that the centerpiece. A storytelling circle." Eleanor's eyes sparkled with possibilities, and encouragement poured forth. Each person who spoke felt lighter, the burden of their secrets lifted ever so slightly as they contemplated opening up about their shared history. With newfound determination, Jack glanced at Sarah, determination glimmering behind his eyes. "Let us gather tales from our past. Maybe they'll lead us to a path forward. They could remind us why our community means everything and what we stand to lose." The energy in the room erupted, voices blending together like the sweetest melody. Ideas flew. A booth decorated with warm colors, inviting everyone to sit and share, a story tree where people could hang notes with their thoughts, a tribute to the past that could welcome their future. Noah stood proudly, his guitar slung across his back. "And I can play music that ties these stories together. We can have a musical backdrop." He beamed, excitement radiating like sunshine. Amid the enthusiastic planning, Sarah caught a glimpse of Jack, his demeanor shifting as he became more animated, joining the flow of ideas with a newly ignited passion. "We can celebrate the stories of struggles and triumphs. Let us remember they're intertwined. It's what we can do together that matters, not the scars we've kept hidden." He glanced at Sarah, eyes full of recognition and strength. As laughter erupted and voices hummed with possibility, the connection between Sarah and Jack deepened. They shared a moment, a subtle understanding, a kindred spirit navigating a path they had once thought impossible. But just as joy flourished, a shadow darted across Sarah's heart. What if there were still stories too painful to share? Not everyone would find courage so easily. The layers of the community's past were many, and they beckoned for more than just a surface glimpse. Days turned into weeks, and with each progressive meeting, excitement soared for the impending festival. Yet a honeyed anticipation buzzed alongside uncertainty, the balance of hope and fear palpable in the air. Finally, the day of the festival arrived, each moment orchestrated with precision and care. Colorful banners danced in the wind, the aroma of delicious food wafted through the air, and laughter filled every corner of the park. The sun shone like a guiding light above their heads. As people began to gather, Sarah stood at the center of it all, pride swelling in her heart. All around her were families bonding, children playing, and music echoing throughout the area. But it was the storytelling circle that held her gaze, an inviting circle of soft seats where people could finally share their truths. With her heart pounding, she gently nudged Jack, who stood next to her. "Ready?" Jack took a deep breath, a mixture of nerves and exhilaration shimmering in his eyes. "Let us do this," he replied, determination lighting the path ahead. They ushered people to the circle with smiles and warm encouragement. One by one, townsfolk edged toward the center, slowly magnifying the energy of the gathering. They were called not to perform but to share a tale of struggle, a cherished moment, a whisper of joy. Eleanor was one of the first to step up, her voice grounding everyone, tethering them to the essence of community. As the stories whirled from one heart to another, the air thick with connection, something remarkable began to unfold. With each voice that spoke, barriers crumbled. The laughter, the tears, the nods of understanding mingled together, creating a tapestry of realization. Shared hardships, undeniable resilience, and fierce love swelled among them like blossoms returning each spring. An unexpected bond was forming, a solidarity birthed anew among those who had once felt disconnected. Jack's gaze never left Sarah's as they stood witness to the magic of vulnerability taking shape. All they had fought for was blooming. The room had transformed. They were no longer just a community with struggles, they were a family, the scars of their pasts laying the foundation for a brighter tomorrow. In that moment, all doubts began to fade, replaced by the fierce flame of unity. The echoes of joy reverberated in their hearts, filling Sarah with confidence. Their story was becoming an anthem, one of love, of overcoming, of the healing power found in community. As laughter and music intertwined, and voices chimed through the air, one thing became crystal clear: they were ready to rise together. And as Sarah closed her eyes, a warm smile blossomed on her face. She felt hope, not just for the festival but for everything that lay ahead. They were intertwined, each story, each challenge together, weaving a fabric that would embrace their futures and nourish their pasts. With each celebration of togetherness, they would continue finding strength in their stories, becoming something greater than they had ever begun to imagine, a community that loved, that healed, that thrived. This was their moment. And as they all stood together, a powerful voice resonated through the crowd: "Together we rise." As the festival flowed into the sunset, Sarah felt the echo of Eleanor's words resonating in her heart long after the night had faded. Here, they stood lovingly among one another, a community unified. Would they embrace this new dawn? The story was theirs to shape. And it had only just begun. Now, if you've enjoyed this touching conclusion and feel inspired by the journey of Sarah and her community, then you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't wait not even one more second, hit that button and mark all notifications so you won't miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support, because it really makes a difference. I want you to comment below with your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending. What resonated with you? And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You know who they are. Let's spread the message of hope and community. Your support matters. This is the moment to show it.